Developing Inclusive Education in South Africa. Introduction. In 2001, the South African government introduced a strategy to develop inclusive education. White Paper No. 6 recognized that the apartheid years had left South Africa with a legacy of discrimination and negative attitudes towards difference and diversity. Many South African children, including many disabled children, were not receiving high-quality education. The 2001 census identified at least 300,000 disabled children of school age who were not in school at all. The government acknowledged that the development of inclusive schools was vital to the provision of equality of opportunity for all learners. Following White Paper No. 6, 30 of the 80 school districts in South Africa were chosen to develop inclusive education. In each district, one school was identified to become a full-service school and to lead on the development of good inclusive practice. Each full-service school has an institutional or school-based support team. These teams work closely with their district support team to make all areas of school life accessible to disabled learners. In each of the 30 districts, one special school was also selected to become a resource base to support the inclusion of disabled children in surrounding mainstream schools. Many districts have now greatly increased the number of schools that they are supporting to develop inclusive education. In 2007, the South African government ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and made the commitment that all schools would be working inclusively by 2019. South Africa is also working towards the Millennium Development Goal, which requires that all children have full primary education by 2015. In early 2008, the South African government invited Disability Equality in Education to run inclusive education seminars and to film inclusive practice in South African schools. Filming took place in 10 primary schools within 4 provinces: Gauteng, Mpumalanga, the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape. The 10 schools include both resourced full-service primary schools and some schools that are developing inclusive practice using their existing staff and resources. Filming took place in classes as they were happening. The intention was to share ideas about good practice. This DVD is divided into 3 main sections: ethos and culture, teaching, and support structures. These 3 areas were all key to the development of good practice in the schools visited. We hope you'll find many ideas here to inspire you and to support your school to develop inclusive education. Ethos and culture. In the schools featured, the key factors which led to the development of a strong inclusive ethos were strong leadership from principals and school-based support team coordinators, a whole staff commitment to inclusion, flexible management, and a systematic approach to removing attitudinal, learning, and physical barriers within schools.
It is a good thing that they've taken the children who are disabled, because in the previous years, these children were kept at home, neglected. Now that the children are being brought into the school, they can be able to play with other children, they can be able to communicate with the teacher, they learn English, they learn all the languages which are being spoken at school, and they really feel part of the community. So it is a good thing. I think we're happy about that. We only wish it could be introduced in all the schools, not just particular schools, because these children are disabled all over.
Bukhozi Betfu School in Mpumalanga is a full-service school. It was one of the first 10 schools in the province to be chosen to pilot inclusive education. Children aged 5 to 13 years attend. There are high levels of unemployment in the area, and the school runs a nutrition program to ensure that children receive food each day. The school welcomes disabled learners with a wide range of learning difficulties and physical impairments. Bukhozi Betfu staff and governing body members believe that all pupils have a right to an education and the right to learn skills that will support them after school. At Bukhozi Betfu, staff encourage all students to treat their disabled peers with equality and respect.
We used the white paper number 6 because it emphasized the fact that all learners can learn and all need support. So we wanted to change so that all the learners with the learning disabilities can be catered in our vision and mission statement.
Bukhozi Betfu has a welcoming and inclusive ethos. Staff identify children's needs and plan and adapt the curriculum to meet them. The disabled children in this grade 1 class include learners with hearing impairments, a pupil with cerebral palsy, a pupil with learning difficulties, and a pupil with attention deficit disorder. The disabled learners sit near the front. The teacher uses visual materials and teaches through community languages and sign language. These strategies support all children to learn and are essential to make the subject accessible to disabled learners.
H, I, and J.
Bukhozi Betfu has many large classes and often deploys 2 teachers to each class. Tabani has global development delay and epilepsy. His teachers plan differentiated work for him and include cutting, drawing and clay modeling tasks to develop his fine motor skills. Tabani is 7. At school, he is learning English and making good progress.
She said, he said it's a cycle. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Education is the key to life, because any child who is educated is able to be independent, can live on her own. You know, she can work, get money on her own, feed herself and look after herself. So to leave a child without education is tantamount to killing that child. If you have educated your child, you have given that child something for life.
We started off with the idea of inclusive education about 8 years ago, when one of the parents of our school came to me and said he had a child by the name of Louis, who was Down syndrome, and he wanted to know if we would be able to accommodate him. We then had a look at the White Paper 6, and we started off small. We started with Louis, and then we got a few more children and with different kinds of disabilities.
Inclusive working at Baanbreker has moved up through the school as children have changed grades. Louis has reached grade 7, and now teachers throughout the school are involved. Baanbreker School is committed to developing good inclusive practice. Over the last 8 years, the school has worked hard to fund resources for inclusion, to make its curriculum accessible to a wide range of learners, and to change attitudes.
The thing that best persuade people is success. If they see how the children develop and what are being achieved with them, they tend to lean towards the inclusion principle.
What's key to success?
I think there's got to be a willingness to make it work. If you don't want to do it, you will never succeed. There's got to be a willingness that it can be done and it is possible. And if there's a will, there's a way. You will find a way to make it work. And positive attitude is basically the key factor to make it successful.
Parow Preparatory School in the Western Cape is a full-service school with 380 learners. 80 learners are disabled children. They include children with physical impairments, children with hearing and visual impairments, children with Down syndrome, children with autism, and children with HIV and AIDS. The school has been developing inclusive practice since 2001.
At the beginning, we had to make an enormous mind shift because teachers were frightened to take in these children. They weren't comfortable with the idea of taking in these children. We had some workshops and some sessions, and the ethos of the school is very important because you have to get everybody on board. That is very important. You have to inform the children and the teachers about the problems of the challenged children so that they are all on board, they take ownership, and then you get the support and the empathy and the respect and understanding, and then you don't get any children mocking others or running them down.
Staff at Parow adapt the curriculum, teaching and assessment to meet children's needs. The school curriculum includes many creative projects and lots of physical activities to develop all children's motor skills. In addition to physical coordination, this Snakes and Ladders game develops math skills, teamwork and communication. John, leading the green team, is one of 2 learners with a hearing impairment in this class. Peer support is encouraged throughout the school, and staff share information about children's impairments and needs with all learners.
I feel that children should not just be isolated. They benefit from the interaction with mainstream children, and the mainstream children also learn wonderful skills from it. I think inclusion is fantastic. We enjoy it. The teachers enjoy it. It's a whole new way of working with children and teaching children and understanding children. It's absolutely the best you can find. But your ethos must be in place. You must have a mind shift. There must be respect for one another. But if you get it going and you can make a success of it, it's a win-win situation.
Mahlasedi Musana Primary School educates 1,300 children from the township of Mamelodi in Gauteng province.
We are a school that have piloted inclusion before even the white paper was passed in Parliament some many years back, because what we realized around here was learners who with disabilities whom their parents did not bring to school. And luckily I had a team of educators who took upon their shoulders to move around and look for such learners. Through the parents' meetings, I was able to inform the parents that it is important, it is imperative that their children must also get education. And therefore, it is working so well for the school.
There are 48 learners in this grade 1 class. The classroom has been arranged so that everyone can move around easily and so that Mrs. Kola, the teacher, can get to each pupil when she needs to. Mrs. Kola has seated learners needing the most support at 2 tables and 1 girl with high support needs at the front. Mrs. Kola plans the lessons so that when the rest of the class are working, she has some time that she can spend with individual pupils who need additional support. Bottle tops have been added to the class resources to make sure that everyone has something to count with. 2 disabled pupils have stress balls to help them develop fine motor skills. At Mashla Sedi Musana, the school-based support team leads on inclusion. The school principal is one member of this team which advises on curriculum adaptation and support for disabled and disadvantaged children. As team coordinator, Mary ensures that strategies are monitored. Peer tutoring is one strategy that is used throughout the school.
We do encourage buddy system, learner helping a learner, because really it's working and it helps us a lot. Because the kids sometimes learn easy from their peers.
Mary's team share their experience of inclusion with other schools and try to ensure that transition to high school is as successful as possible for disabled learners.
We went all out to do some follow-ups even at high school, to go to our school and say, we have such a kid. To be able to cope, you need to do 1, 2, 3. We have a learner who we did that, and she got the bursary from the St. Albans. And, he passed with distinctions.
This is a grade 5 maths class. Zanele has complex learning needs, physical impairments and epilepsy. The teacher includes Zanele in all class activities. The teacher's attitude to Zanele is welcoming and supportive, and through her actions, the teacher is a role model to all learners. When Mashla Sedi Musana first started working inclusively, some staff were apprehensive. Strong leadership from the principal and the school-based support team coordinator have changed attitudes. What would they say to other teachers who may be apprehensive?
I will say to the educators that this is just a challenge, but we need to open our hands and welcome these kids. We have a responsibility, and our responsibility is to teach and to make sure that learners learn and to identify these kids, the problems, their barriers, and be prepared to address them and change our mindset.
I think if you have never done something, first try it. First try it, and then you'll see how you can tackle it. Because if I have never ridden a bicycle, I think I need to ride a bicycle first and fall and see, oh, this is how I fare. This is how I need to go about this. So I will encourage them not to fear anything. There is no specific method per se to deal with inclusive education. Even though at some areas you need some advices to the experts, to people who are already in it, there's nothing to fear.